You're very welcome to join us on Across the Street and Around the World. And we've had people from Hong Kong and America and Poland and all over the world. And we really do have somebody across the street today, Collette Wolfe. Where are you from, Collette?
From Ballyphehane originally, the south side.
So you're not far from us here in Toka?
No, just around the corner.
So you grew up there, and what was life like growing up there?
Well, I came from a family of 11. My mum was a very hard worker. My father was an alcoholic. I had 6 sisters and 4 brothers. Life would have been, I had great sisters and fabulous mother. My father would have been, like I said, an alcoholic, so everything would have been left on my mum's shoulders, and he would have been a very cross man. When he'd have drink, he'd be quiet, but it would be when he'd be after the drink, or if he had whiskey. So I'd often see our home be broke up and put together again a couple of days later. Have I happy memories of our home life? I have a lot, but I also would have memories that would have where abuse was, sexual abuse, and that would have started when I'm not exactly sure at the age, because when you're being abused, you always feel that you're older than what you are, and I always felt that I was older, but it stopped when I was 11. It would have been a family member, and I remember how it first happened. I remember I was young, and he told me that there was a mouse in the bedroom. My mum was working that time. She used to do nights, and he told me there was a little white mouse up in the bedroom. And I went up with him. There was no white mouse, of course, and that's how the abuse started. And to be honest, at the start I didn't think there was anything wrong. I didn't feel comfortable, and I felt awkward, and I didn't know what it was, because I wouldn't have known much sexual relationship. And that time, when you go back, I'm 51 years of age, so sex wouldn't have been really mentioned much, and you wouldn't have really known what sex was like. But I remember it started with that. And then after a while, it started to kind of the bullying would have set in then, so that I'd stay quiet. So I remember that when it stopped at 11, how it actually did stop was more traumatic, I think, than the whole abuse itself. I was 11, and my sister was home from England. They would have been I had a few sisters that would have been older than us. And they were back, and it didn't matter, like when people talk about abuse, they think that you're in an isolated part, that there's nobody around, but there was often a full house when my abuse would have taken place. And this day, they were all home from England, and I was up in the back bedroom. I knew something wasn't right, and I had no escape. I just felt it was getting so bad that I wasn't learning anything in school, that I'd be thinking, by the time I get home, would one of my sisters be at home? So this day, some of my sisters were home from England, and she came up, our bathroom was upstairs, straight across from the room that I was in. And what happened was, she came into the bedroom. She must have probably heard noises, and of course she seen the scene that was there, and all hell broke loose, I can tell you. All hell broke loose. I can remember, at 11, you think, oh my God, you're standing here now, you're my mum and my dad, and then I think I felt shamed, you know what I mean? I just couldn't really put it into words. But on the same occasion, my mum sought advice from a priest. I never forget it. I think it was what stuck in my head the most is that, he said that all children experiment. And afterwards, it wasn't until years later that I realised, there were 7 years of a difference. So it was kind of like being brushed underneath the carpet. My mum didn't know any better than I was. I won't lie and say that she was a bad woman. She was a fabulous, beautiful woman, but just didn't understand this aspect of it. And what happened was then, things that made things worse then was, something was said, he was thrown out of the house for 2 weeks. And it was said to me, are you happy that he's living on the streets? For 11-year-old to hear that, and to know that the rest of the family here, I didn't know what they were thinking at the time, but I thought that they were thinking, I'm all the fault of this, you know what I mean? So for years you carry that shame, and that, your confidence is gone. And, as I know now that people are doing interviews on the show, so the public would know really that people that suffer from sexual abuse, it's not only sexual abuse, because for years later I got the crap beat out of me, so that, you know, it was probably his way of dealing with the sense that, you know, he wasn't wrong and that it was my fault, so that I'd feel that it was my fault. Well, the way I look at it is that I had three other sisters and we never spoke to each other about our experience, our life, but because it's, I suppose it's too painful and you don't want to know what's going on in their life, and they didn't want to know what went on in my life. But you learn to kind of protect one another, and we used one another in a sense that if I was going home, one would always make sure that they'd be at the corner, or we'd wait for one another. And then my older sister, she would have been 18 months older than me. She died since now. She died when she was 40. She was just, she was my rock, because I didn't know God. I didn't know God existed. Nobody told me that God existed, you know. I would have probably known about the rosary bead and, you know, and pray to Our Lady. But whenever I tried to pray, I never felt anything. I would have prayed to Our Lady to help her, but I never knew that, you know, you pray to Jesus and, you know, and he'd intercess for you, and nobody ever told me about that, so I didn't know.
So you'd suffered that abuse up to the age of 11, and your sisters had got you through that period, really, and you'd supported each other. But something else happened when you were 17 as well, something traumatic, didn't it?
Well, I was 15 when I met Anthony, my husband.
Did you meet at school, or where did you
No,
meet?
it was a Sunday disco, Stardust, and that's how we met. And he was from the north side and I was from the south side.
And were you allowed to get together, because there was fierce rivalry then, wasn't there, between the north and the south
There
side?
was, but it was just a connection that we just both had, I'd say. And I remember he walked me home for it was only and from 3 to 6, and he walked me home to the park, to the side of the park, because my dad was, oh my God, my husband would describe it better. He was a troubled man, is what I can say. He was a troubled man, but he could get very cross. So I was after meeting Anthony, and I realised, you know, I didn't trust men, because I wouldn't have had much really to do with men. And still today I'm very, very hands-on with women. But God has after given me such a healing with men that I'm comfortable with them, which I would have never been. But so me and Anthony got together and we were going out together, and there would have been no sexual thing or anything like that, because that wouldn't have been, you know, I would have been too afraid of anything like that. He wouldn't have known anything like that. So I had a job then in Ballincollig. I was about 14 when I started working. Because I was really couldn't focus really on school. So me and Anthony finished for a couple of months, and I liked this boy, about a couple of years older than me, and I liked him. And me and my friend, they were having a finishing up do coming up to Christmas, and I didn't drink, to be honest, because you'd have to be very wary in our home, so you definitely didn't take drink, because I said it was survival of the fittest, so I reckon have all your faculties. And my friend was mad about this boy, and I liked this boy. He was only home from England. He was only after starting the job a couple of months, and it was only in the evening. It was only about 7 o'clock in the evening. We went for a walk, and I ended up being raped. It's funny how that rape afterwards played a big part in me getting to know God, because it was traumatic. It was a traumatic rape. Guards were involved, and you know, but the worst part was about it when the guards came to the home. You know, they normally take your clothes and what have you, like. But I remember they dealt with my dad and my brothers, and sure, my brother was one of the abusers. So I was thinking, you know, this fella was a stranger. Do you know what I mean? And every detail was being discussed, you know, and they were going to go out and sort him, you know, and I just, you know, it did nothing. So the guards that night, even though they done nothing wrong, and they done nothing, they just, them talking and communicating with the person that really hurt me the most. You know, I got off the bruises and the battering, because I did get a fairly battering, but I got over them, they all healed. But it was just that intimate conversation that took place in our home, you know, and that it was my business. It was what happened to me, and I didn't want him to know anything of what happened. So all I felt then for years with the guards was when I'd see the uniform, I never got a tax fine. I never got a parking fine. I never got it. I had kind of phobia, I think, against the uniform itself. It probably brought a remembrance or a fear that was hidden. But I will tell you, I did pray. When I got raped, I prayed because I was worried in case I was pregnant. And of course, me and Anthony weren't doing anything, and I was worried in case that if I was pregnant, I would have kept it, you see. And I was thinking, my God, the whole of Cork will know that this baby is out of a rape. And it would have been more of that, the effect of that it would have having on me. And I remember I asked him, I said, if you're real, if you can help me, please don't let me be pregnant. And I will never look back at my past. And I think maybe that's the reason I didn't look back. And he did. He was faithful and he answered the prayer. But did I give another thought? No, I didn't give another thought, to be honest. I just probably thought that it was pot luck and that I wasn't. Things moved on for me and Anthony. We got married. I was 20 and Anthony was 21.
So he was much older than you, wasn't he?
He was, and in everything, to be honest. No, but I tell you the truth, from very early on, Anthony had a very good heart. I didn't probably respect it or treat it the way it should have been treated, because I suppose being hurt the way you are in life. I can honestly say that I didn't carry this big chip on my shoulder, that the world owed me anything. I remember when we got married and we had our son Anthony, my first son. I think I found my place in life when my son was in my arms, and I found out with each of them. To be honest, I felt this was my calling, that, no matter what happened, life was full to the brim when I had my children. Anthony still wouldn't have known about the abuse. He would have known about the rape, but he wouldn't have, because the rape was so public, but he wouldn't have known about the abuse. There were signs there that he was able to, like, I would be afraid of the dark. If I was going to the bathroom, I'd wake him and he'd have to make sure that he was sitting up in the bed while I light the lights and, go to the bathroom. I was fair. There was always fair. If I was driving and it was late, I'd phone Anthony to tell him, be at the door, because I'd be afraid coming up the drive. I was always afraid. I'd be afraid to look back in the back of the car. I don't know fully understand what all that was about, because I suppose I never got counselling for that issue. But it was always fair. Always fair. Something else was going to happen, you know what I mean, or something, or maybe I wasn't meant to be this happy, that I was feeling. And then we had Trina. She was our second child, and he was always a very hard worker, and I was very blessed that I was able to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mum. I enjoyed them, to be honest. Now, of course, they're traumatic, like every parent would say. They're hard work, and mine were no different, you know what I mean? Three of them had different personalities. One was very easy. My son was just very quiet and, passed away. My middle child there's a middle child syndrome, and she had that. And I used to think I wasn't going to get her to 18, because I was saying I will kill her by the time she gets to 18. She had an answer for everything. And then Leanne, it's not that they say you love your children different than you do, but I think maybe God was giving me a little bit of, when I had Leanne, I couldn't understand it. Maybe it was the years of a gap, and we were older, and I knew that it touched Anthony as well, because he was in the room when she was born, private. We did it. This was a child that I knew she was the last. I had a feeling, because we tried for a while for her. We wanted more than 2 children. We wanted about 6. There were blessings there. My first son was colic, so he was very cross. So that was a real tester if we were going to survive parenthood. And then Trina was a passive out until she got to 2, and then she turned into the terrible 2s. And then Leanne, I honestly remember Leanne being born, and Anthony was in the room, and she was actually born at 10:20, and he broke my waters at 8 o'clock, and she was born, so she didn't give me not an ounce of trouble. 10:20 she was born. She came into the world, and I remember looking at her, and I remember thinking, my God, what a gift to get. And I remember, instead of me, Anthony held her first, which is kind of not normal, like, but usually, and he held her first. And the bond, I think, was made there, and then she actually bonded with Anthony. There was a fierce bond with me and Leanne, but she bonded with her dad that instant, because you'd see it as the years went on. We have a very good relationship with the 3 of them, but Leanne was special. I suppose the last, when that the last, it's your everything is in this little one, in the sense like that you're going to enjoy him. You're going to enjoy the night feeds. You're going to enjoy the training. You're not going to rush to train him or potty train him. You're going to enjoy the moments that you have from him. And I think we did. Every moment that we had with Leanne, she gave us joy. She was just a child that loved people. And then we moved forward another little bit. Leanne, they're all in school and what have you, they're all doing well. And I was very blessed with they weren't drawn to the drugs or the drink. Leanne went a small bit of a bad road, all right, and then she came back. Not much now, but I think it was more of the loneliness when we get back, when we go into that part. I'll explain it better. And my sister then, we were very close, as I told you earlier on. My eldest sister Frances, we were extremely close, but she got sick and kind of 3 years kind of were up in the air with my own family, and you know, because I would have been very close to her, my mum and my other 2 sisters would have been very close, but I would have seen her back door from my front door, so we were extremely close. You know, our Leanne, she had a boy and a girl. Her last were a boy and a girl. They were twins, and I had Leanne 10 days apart, and we got them baptised together. They were christened together, and there was Leanne, Lizelle and Leonard. There's 2 of them gone now. One died of meningitis, and Leanne, and there's only Leonard left now. And so we were just extremely close. So Lizelle was after dying of meningitis, and there was fierce grief. You know, they were rare together. Our families were rare together. We were very close, like, and when Lizelle died, you know, there was fierce brokenness, like. And I remember at start I was afraid to put Leanne into a dress because, you know, there was only 10 days and they were with each other and what have you. And, you know, and I remember she went down into Roach Stores at the time and she brought home a dress for Leanne. She says, you have to stop putting her into dresses. She just had a fierce heart, like. And then, but you see, she had no healer to leave her know, that Lisa was only gone up ahead of her, like. So what happened was 7 years later, she was diagnosed with lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's cancer. So she had young babies at the stage. Now she had 7, but they would have been 1. David would have been only 3. Laura was 5.5. Kenneth was just coming up to his communion. Vanessa, God help us, Vanessa was very young. And Vanessa would have been the same age as my daughter Trina. And then there would have been Clifford and Joseph and Leonard, you know. So life was tough, I won't lie. We didn't get a minute really. And, you know, there wasn't much time anymore for kind of family time. But I found at that time, like, that there was so much going on. She'd go for treatment and, you know, if we have to go in somewhere else. And then she went on intense treatment. And, you know, things went from bad to worse, but she was always, every time you sit in her presence, there was always a great kind of, you feel that you'd be encouraged around her. She just was a fierce encouragement. And at the end, she went to Dublin. We went up to Dublin. I'd stay a week up there, but then I'd come down and stay in her house, and the kids would come up to me, and then we would collect all the kids after work. And it was just, our lives were just really up in the air for 3 years, but she would have done it for 10 years if we knew. But she went up for a bone marrow transplant because they reckoned through having so many young children and being so young herself that they'd give her the chance. But it was very slim. It was trial and error. So she did. But it blew it everywhere instead of the opposite. It blew the cancer everywhere. So she was actually dying in St. James's at this stage. We were all there, and the food drip, everything taken off. They were saying that 24 hours. But God, I didn't have the motive, you know. And so 24 hours went into 48 hours. And then another day passed and they decided to start giving her food and what have you. And then they said she wouldn't wake up because she was slipping away, really. Through being the closest into her sister-wise, because I would have been so near to her in house-wise, and we'd have been very close. My youngest sister, Loretta, would have been in the room, and she was texting. And next, Frances' eyes open, and she said, if you text once more with that, she said, get outside the door. She was the only one that was really able to nip Loretta in place, like, because I was looking, I'd be after looking at her a couple of times. I'd say, Jeff, put that away. For the love of God, you just put that away. And she rose up off the bed. She said, push it away. No, or get out. And Loretta, like that, the texting stopped after that. So then there was a miracle that I didn't even realise at the time happened. She was losing blood and platelets. So they said that she wanted to go home, down to Cork. She wanted to be with her smaller children. If she was going to die, she was very, very a woman that knew everything, knew and all that the lymphoma went everywhere, and that she was borderline leukemia. So she wanted to go home, and they were saying no. And me and Anthony, we were hiring out a minibus because I said, you know, her husband didn't want her to go home, he wanted to, but I knew that I'm a mother, I want to be with my children. So we went to inquire about a minibus because I said, we'll take her home, we'll take the responsibility, we signed the forms. Me and Anthony went over and we bought quilts and pillows and a throw and everything that we could, and we came back anyway. But I'd say the hospital realised that we were serious and they supplied us with an ambulance. I remember I travelled in the ambulance where I go down, and they travelled in the head, and all the way down she was saying her 2 older boys were there, and she was saying they would have loved McDonald's, and her husband was saying they're not getting no McDonald's, for God's sake, we just need to get you home now, my have you. And she was very ill now, you can imagine that. And actually, I'd like McDonald's. She couldn't even drink well. I'd like McDonald's. So her boys got McDonald's because she wanted McDonald's for them. So we got home and we pulled up in Lotamore, up in Mayfield, and they brought her in. And I'll never forget, she actually walked her in. She walked her in. She got her oldest boy, helped her in. He actually nearly carried her in, and she got in home. And we had 5.5 wonderful weeks. 2 nights before she died, about a week previous, we went travelling. I wanted a miracle for her. I didn't care. Death wasn't an issue. I wasn't having it. Nobody was taking Francis from me, like. And I remember we went up to this place up in Turles. It's a church. I can't even remember the name of it now. But there was a nun up there, and seemingly that she had hands on Sister Mercedes, I think her name was at the time. And she was hands on praying in hands. So when we went up, Francis went in to see her, but there was boxes there. And I remember there was monks playing at the background. You know, there must have been a CD or something. And there was music playing in the background. There was boxes that you put petitions in, but I couldn't spell. And I wanted to put in a miracle for her, you know, of healing, but I couldn't. And at the end, I didn't want to leave it. And I could spell peace of mind. And I put that in. And afterwards, that came back. And, you know, it was because she had no peace of mind. She didn't want to leave her children. And, you know, she just, imagine they were babies. Like, no mother wants to leave their children. Like, so what happened was she came out, and I knew by her face, she said, you know, she knew whatever the nun said to her, there was, you know, she wasn't going to be healed. And, well, God wasn't going to heal, because God was in charge of it when you think of it, but I didn't know that at the time. I thought it was just nonsense and whatever she was doing or whoever she was praying to. So we came down, and, you know, we had I couldn't say no. People didn't see us because we closed ranks. But 2 nights before she died, I was sleeping with her, I was living with her, and we were in the same bed, and she had just a lovely way about her. And it was a March, and it was the 8th of March, because she died on the 10th, on Leanne's birthday. And it was the 8th of March, and she woke up. And, of course, she was on a double bed, and she was on this cushion thing that they put on, you know, the air mattress. And she was on that, but I was on about 2 inches. Now, I'm not 2 inches. And I can tell you, I was mighty uncomfortable. I could barely move and what have you. So she woke up, and we got out of bed. I helped her out of bed and what have you. She was very independent. When I say helping her, because if she was listening or what have you, she was very independent. Right up to the time that she went into hospital, she was able to do a lot herself. She looked out the window, and it was the 8th of March, 2000. It was the millennium, when you think of it. We just after going into 2000. And she looked out, she said, oh, God, she said, it's a beautiful day, Collette. And I kind of looked at her, and I was thinking, a beautiful day. I was so negative, like, and I said, how could it be a beautiful day, Francis? It was so ridiculous. You know, here's a woman that's dying. They have no hope, that they're after telling her that she was actually gone over. They don't know what was keeping her alive. So she says, Collette, I says, how can you feel that you're so lucky? She said, you know why? She said, not many people in their lifetime know how much they're loved. She said, I have a family. She said, I have a mother and a sisters. She said that if it lasts, she said, for another 10 years, I have no fear that they'll mind me and they'll help me. I have children that adore me. She said, how many people can say, she said, that they're loved that much? How lucky am I, Collette? And I remember looking and thinking, what an incredible statement to say. But, you know, I never gave it much thought until years later myself, until I was probably in so much trouble, because didn't really, when you think of it, didn't God answer that prayer? I mightn't have been able to spell up in Turles, but I spelled peace of mind, and he gave her peace of mind. He gave her peace of mind that it was okay. She was reassuring me that she was okay, and if she was okay, I was okay. Do you know what I mean? We were never separated. At that stage, we were closer. At least there was actually, like, there was 3 in the marriage, but he loved her the way I loved her. So that everybody that knew her loved her. She just had that presence about her. She had the first presence of authority, you know. There was never, you know, you could be traveller, black, white, green, beggar, rich, or what have you. There was no difference with her. Even when she was dying, the priest, he says, you know something, it wouldn't matter if you're the Pope, he said, who she thinks, it's the kids getting first, her kids getting first. He said, you wait in line. There was no difference. I sure know, I probably won't pronounce it right, but partiality, is it? She had no for people, like, so she died on the 10th of March, and I won't lie, it was a hard time. It was a hard time for me, and it was a hard time for my family, because I grieved hard. And, you know, there's a part in the Bible you say that you grieve without hope. Well, I grieved without hope, and I suppose Leanne and my other 2 children grieved hard, and Anthony grieved hard, and we were, I suppose, in a place really that, you know, when you haven't God, you know, you're on your own devices then, and like we were already after dealing with that with Lisa Island, that was so horrendous, and here's this big presence that kind of, I always felt, you know, I was so self-conscious about things that if I needed to change a shirt or return something, she'd have to do all that for me. She'd come into the bank, she'd do the bank. If it wouldn't be her, it would be Anthony, because I'd never do anything like that. So I remember sitting down, she had a chain, a pearl chain. It wasn't no worth a fortune. It was a necklace that I ended up with. It was a present that she got, but it was, it was only about £30 at the time. And I remember it was after break, and you see that, and there was pearls, how things can kind of change afterwards. Like, I remember I gave my son one because they adored her. I gave Trina one, and I gave all her children one. I just felt, and I didn't want to kind of give Leanne, or the youngest kids, one, because I felt they lose it. You know what I mean? They lose it. But I gave it to Leanne at the end. And, I'll get to that story when I do get to about that pearl, because there's a follow-up with that.
Okay. Collette, obviously you've been through a traumatic early life, and your sister died. What happened next in your life, moving on from 2000?
We're going up now, we fast forward to 2007. My daughter turned 18, Leanne, and we went for a meal and we celebrated this. She was our baby, our last at home really. So we had her 18th, and me and Anthony flew out Mother's Day about 4 days afterwards, and we went to Lanzarote. We had a week booked. Up to a couple months previously, Anne was planning to come with us, but she changed her mind. She was staying at home at 18, they kind of... she was thinking of the free holiday and the tent first, and then she was thinking, God, a whole week with the two of them. No, I think, give me my friends. So Trina was down at home, and Adam, I have a grandson, Adam would have been there at the time, 3 more now, Ryan, Evan and Holly, just in case they're ever listening to this, that I'm not forgetting them. We flew to Lanzarote, and we were there, and we had a lovely time. It was a time for relaxing, and it was a Friday, and we went for a meal. And you would have a bottle of wine with our meal, but this night we didn't. We had a meal earlier after the beach, and we came home and we watched a bit of telly in the apartment, and we were wrecked really. And I remember I started off really, and he was sitting down alongside me, and I turned around to him, I said, Aunt, I said, Leanne was 18. I said, and we're after doing good. It was all about where there was, God wasn't even really in the picture. We've 3 children that are, that are good children, and they're respectful to people. But I said, it's time now for you and me. We were young. I said, when we had our family, I said, it's time now for you and me, and we have to start doing more together, holidays, and and I said, you're my best friend and I love you. And and next he turned around, typical man, and I waiting for his big speech, and he said, right back at you. And that was his response, but that was Anthony. And we went to bed, and the phone rang. Anthony's phone rang. He would have had his work phone with him, and his phone rang, and he answered it, and I heard him saying, 3 times. He said, what, Anthony? Who? Gone where? Gone where? My son was trying to tell him that Leanne was gone, but he couldn't say date. He couldn't say the word date, so he says, Leanne is gone, that. And Anthony said to him, gone where, Anthony? And something wasn't right, because he could hear the commotion and everything. And he says, Leanne is dead, that. And we'd be very close. We'd be very close as a family. Like, I remember, when you're standing somewhere and that something horrendous is after happening, something that no matter what happens, there's no fixing this one, there's no saying you're going to get through this one, there's no saying that, that tomorrow, or you're going to laugh about this, there's nothing going to be like this. And I remember he threw the phone, and the phone went down, he was shouting across the thing, he said, she's dead, when you just... And I remember looking, and he lost the plot, and he was trying to get out, he was after wrecking the room, and he was trying to open the door to the balcony part, and I just got this thing that he wanted to throw himself off the balcony, that he didn't probably want to face what was going to face. And I remember thinking, people think it's surreal, but it's not. It's so real, it's so frightening, it's so, and I remember I called Aunt, and I says, are you blaming me, Aunt? Because he was saying she's dead, she's gone. I says, are you blaming me because I thought he was trying to get away from me? And things calmed, and he looked at me and says, no. He says, no. And we sat down, and I remember we phoned Anthony back, and my God, like, he was only, he was a child, he was our child. I was my mum's child. My mum died when I was 3 years after Leanne, and she treated me as a child. She was my mum, so she minded me, and we were so far away, and my children were there, and I was thinking, they have no one to mind them. There's no one like a mother and father. I spoke to him, and I remember Anthony couldn't speak anymore. So I knew that we were in this place, and for the first time in my life, it wasn't going to be Anthony that was going to try to get us home. I knew that it was going to be on me. And I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get it? Because I knew no more was going to come from Anthony. It was the first time in his life that he controlled the family. He minded the family. He was the head of the family. First time of his life I seen a man just drop to the ground, and he had nothing to give. Like, and I remember my son, Trina, was there and I could hear her screams. I could hear her saying, it's, don't phone us, don't. She didn't want us to be phoned. She got help. She was hoping that it would just go away. And I remember my son, he's a bit like me. And I remember he says, Ma'am, I says, Anthony, what's going on? And he says, Ma'am, there's a load of people here. There was guards, there was paramedics, there was doctors. And I says, clear everybody out of a room. Clear everybody out of a room now. So he did. And I says to him, where is she? He said, she's lying in the bed. So I said, put the phone up to her ear. And he put the phone up to her ear. And I told her, I says, Leanne, we're on the way home. Mammy and Daddy are on the way home. I knew I wasn't stupid because I knew what this was. So I knew by the time I got home, I wouldn't be able to hold her. That wouldn't be possible. I always battled with that one. You bring him into the world, you hold him. I had a choice. I would have still rather hold her, gone out of the world. I spoke to her and I told her, Daddy loves her and if we're coming home, we're on the way and we won't be long. So I took the phone back. Just out of the blue, he just said, Ma'am, there's a lovely guard here, and I said to him, where he was coming with that. He says, he's a very nice guard. And I says, that's Grandad. He says, Ma'am, he says, they want to take Leanne away. You have to leave and take her now. So he said, I know. He said, I want to go with her. I said, they were very close. The three were so close. So I said, you can't go with them. I don't know. God give me the strength because it wasn't me. And I says, no, Anthony, you can't. So I said, will you do me a favour? She had my sister's morning coat. She took it everywhere. Frances bought it for her birthday. It was actually underneath her pillow the same night. So I said, will you wrap her in that? And he was a bit concerned about what way they were going to bring her downstairs and out. And he says, I want to go with her around every day. And I says, no, Aunt, it's time now. It's time you need to step back now. It's time now. I says, that's you. And Trina, I said, I wanted them to get them out to nannies so that if they got out to the nannies, I know that my mum didn't know at this stage. All my sisters were there now. My niece was there, but my mum didn't know. So I knew once they got out there that she'd put a blanket of protection around them, that there'd be nobody come and hurt them any more than what they were hurt. Our journey then started, me and Anthony's. We were trying, you're talking early morning, so in Lanzarote everything closed. So we went to the police station and there were no help at all. They didn't give us, actually we got out the taxi, which was a big mistake because it was so far out, and we were trying to get another taxi afterwards when we came out of the police station. And I remember then we eventually got into the reception, the girl that was the courier. She did a wonderful job. She helped us the best she could. And I remember we were trying to get a taxi to the airport because the bus was full. We still had to wait for the bus for the flight that was going out to Fanmore. We didn't know if we were on it. We were just hoping that she could get us placed, but it was highly unlikely. By chance, if we could get the flight out, we weren't booked for 2 more days to come out, you see. So we couldn't get a cab, so we had to get on this bus. Imagine getting on a bus with that many people. And I tell you, we were wailing, we were grieving for the loss of our daughter. At this stage, I knew that Leanne was after taking tablets and that she was after taking her own life, because Anthony was after telling me they were after finding tablets, and also a note that she was after leaving to her sister, telling her that she just loved her and, and that she wanted to be like her, and that she loved Adam and and that she loved her dad's and auntie. And then she says, and my mum, what a woman, So I knew all that, but I couldn't make sense to it. Why would she do it? We got on the bus and we got to the airport, and I remember we were sitting there in the airport and you're just sitting there, thinking, how are we going to why aren't we at home? Because would it been easier? I reckon, because you would have had family around you to kind of support you. At the end, she came over. There was actually 4 people that were drunk that weren't allowed on the plane, so we had to fly to Dublin. We didn't care once it was, and my son then had a flight arranged to fly from Dublin to Cork. So when we got into Dublin, we got back to Cork, and of course Leanne was in the regional. I couldn't bear the thoughts of going to the regional, so we phoned Charlie Sullivan, which would be our undertaker, and he arranged to collect Leanne, and he'd done all that part and my family done the rest. We were there, and my son turned around, and I tell you, it's, I wasn't in a daze. I was so focused, because suicide is it blows open every one of your doors, every comfort that you have, every, as a parent, as a mother, I felt that I was after doing things right. But at that time, I just felt that I was complete failure as a mother, that, someone that you could love as much as what you love. All this hurt came from inside your home. So if this hurt can be from inside your home, what can the outside world do to you? We were there on the second day, and, arrangements were after to be made. And Anthony said to me, my son said, Mum, he said, the guard said, would it be all right if we'd done it for my mother's house in Ballyfihan? So he said, would it be all right if the guard came out? He wanted to speak to you and my dad. And I was thinking, yeah. But I was thinking, what does he want, like? And he came out. He came out now and all in his uniform, such a lovely man. I didn't know it at the time, but there was a lovely presence of him, but I felt very comfortable with him, which I usually didn't with men. I'd back off. And see, Anthony didn't speak. Anthony lost his voice, and he didn't speak for days and ends. He just couldn't speak. He hadn't the heart I was supposed to speak. So I had to kind of do the talking and do the organisation. Me and my son done the funeral, and we organised, and I knew it would be the last time that I'd ever do anything for Leanne. So I wanted it just... I suppose I just wanted to lift her up. But I never knew at the time that there was worse to come. Thought that there couldn't be any worse than what was after happening. So the morning of our funeral, Anthony was out the back, and we were only 3 months in the house, and I could hear the screams. Anthony was out in the shed because we were after getting him on the barney shed, and we had lots of photographs out there, and he just wanted to bring every photograph that was out there of Leanne. He just wanted to, he wanted her, And I heard the screams, and it was Trina. The screams were coming from upstairs. And I ran up, but I knew running up them stairs, I was thinking, what more can fall on this home, like. And I got up to the stairs, and she was sitting in the bed, and she had books and papers, and they were scattered, and she had two of them in her hand, two big pages, and she said, look what they done to her, ma'am, look what they done to her. And I said, look what who done to her. So she said, look, and the 2 pages that she had, I took in my hand, and on the top was, if I die in the morning, I want this. And the previous page read out of my funeral how they made me feel isolated, lonely, ugly. And then she went on and she named them, bullies is what she had across from it. And then, and my so-called friends, shame on ye for standing by. And then in the next page she went in, this is what she wanted read at her funeral, like. No, we had a fair idea because we thought we got it stopped. But it escalated to names and phone calls, texts, and all these other things. And I was kind of looking at it, and Trina says, look at her diaries. I never even knew she had diaries. She had 5 years of diaries. I couldn't focus. I was thinking, I need to bury her. What am I going to do? I need to sort it out. But you see, these people that were in this, that bullied her, were also at her rosary removal. So I made a couple of phone calls, told them that I just didn't want them at her funeral. No big scene. I won't lie. I had no heart for a big scene. I just didn't want to see these people. That now, one of them, we were after going to their house earlier on, about 2 years previous, to ask him to leave her alone and to stop the bullying. And we thought that we were after getting it sorted, but we escalated the work. So then she was buried that day, and I knew that when she was buried that I was going to die. This guard started coming more to our home. Twice a week he'd come, and after a couple of months he turned around and he says, Collette, he said, are you angry at God? And I said, no. And I said, why would I be angry at something that I don't think exists? And I kind of looked at him and I said, why do you believe in God? And he says, yeah, I believe in Jesus. And I kind of looked, and it's a strange thing to hear coming out of a guard sitting there with a full uniform in your home, and you're thinking, my God, like, look what's man in our cities. I was thinking he must have done some form of education. He must have done some form of... And I was thinking he's believing in something like a myth and what have you. But I liked him in my home. I don't know why my husband liked him, and he saw my daughter liked being around him. And, there'd be chaos, but there'd be first peace when he would leave. And then, like, he moved a little bit. He brought a Bible to our home, and we started reading a bit of the Bible. And then he invited us into the church, and we went in. And, I thought it was nice. I thought this thing, if it was a fairy tale, it was nice. I just felt that, I remember thinking, this is it, I can't do it. I remember I drove to the railway station, and I said I had enough. It was early in the morning, about 7:15. I remember sitting in the car thinking, I know that what suicide was going to cause, and I knew the pain that it was going to cause, because we were living it. And I knew that it was only not about me, I know that my children, but I just couldn't bear another minute with the pain. I wanted the pain to stop. I wanted the guilt to stop. I wanted the shame to stop. I wanted, the whole lot to stop. And I remember sitting in the car, and I had a bit of paper in my hand, and I was saying, what can I write? And I remember thinking, I'll write sorry, because nothing is going to be good enough. I know what I was going to cause, but I just couldn't deal with it. I want peace. I wanted to be out. And I remember sitting in the car, and I said, oh, really, help me, because I know I wanted to step in front of a train, because I wanted the pain that I had. I wanted bigger pain. I wanted something so hard to hit me that I just wouldn't feel what I was feeling. I heard a voice in my head, weird now even, but it was my own voice, and it says, it's like I was having a conversation in my head. There's 2 badges you can wear. One is the badge that you can enter here, or you can continue the way you are, and you won't be able to cope with it, and this will be your life. Or the other badges that I'll take it from you, I'll carry it. And I remember I was in the car, and I was saying, I'll take that badge, and I remember I parked up the car, And I walked off to Marks and Spencer's because I was working at Marks and Spencer's. And I went in the door of Marks and Spencer's and to sign in. And I went upstairs and I was over by children's wear and nightwear. And I was crying and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm schizophrenic now. I'm hearing voices, even though it was my own voice. And God is so faithful. He's actually been so faithful to me that in the midst of the whole lot of it, this girl came up, Jocelyn, and she tapped me on the shoulder and she says, Collette, I'm hysterical now. Are you okay? And I told her what happened in the railway station. And she looked at me and she said, Collette, that's God healing you. And I looked at her and I said, how do you know? She said, I'm a Christian. I was saying that Christians are popping up everywhere. They seem to be popping up everywhere because I didn't see none before the hand said. I was thinking they're popping up everywhere now. That, you know, it's such a protection around me. Like, this journey started for us, me and Anthony, you know. I won't say it started off easy. It wasn't an easy journey. We started, you know, seeking him, searching him. And I tell you, I can remember the day that I think they call it an 8-inch or 18-inch from your head to your heart. And I remember I got this thing that I knew he was real. I knew that I found that pearl. I found that pearl and I was thinking, I found my sister and the rest of my family. I was after getting cancer removed 12 months after Leanne because the grief was so intense. I remember I phoned him and I says, you have to come down straight away. You have to come down straight away. I was busting, just busting. And they came down, there was the worry on their face, you know, they hurt because this battle was with us all, you know. This journey of suicide affected everyone, her friends, Leanne's friends, her family, her, you know, it was like a ripple that you throw a stone in and it spread right out, you know. It just touched so many lives and, you know, brought people to so lonely places. Like, I remember they came to the house, you know, and they knew we were searching because I wasn't a good enough person for it and maybe, you know, my past would hold me up, but it didn't. There was nothing like that this day. I just went from my head to my heart and it was a simple little thing that came up that I was saying, I have a 1,000,000-piece jigsaw and it won't fit because I'm missing one piece and I didn't know what the one piece was. And I heard that it was trust and it fitted all together, just trust him. So I trusted and I knew it. I just felt so different and so, you know, I can't explain it. It was joy. You know, I had my daughter. It didn't make a difference right at that moment. I had Christ. And I phoned them. They came to the door and their faces, you know, they were ash-like. And they came in and I says, what are you going for an x-ray for? And I said, he's in there. And I said, he's like Rocky. And I said, I'm after finding him or he's finding me. I don't know which way it works. I said, but he's real. I said, he's real. I said, and I could feel the comfort setting in. I could feel the peace. You know, the peace then started coming in that instead of nights of torment, we had nights of peace, of sleep. People with suicide, when they lose people to suicide, there's no sleep, pure torment. And then all of a sudden you have peace. And the peace that surpasses all human understanding. He does guard the minds and hearts of those that are in Christ. And you know, I'm sitting here today and I'm telling you, you hear my journey from where I came from. I didn't know God. He's as real. But the only thing I will have to tell people is your journey is the same that when you meet someone for the first time. It can't stop at that. You have to form a friendship. You get to know a person. You get to love him. That journey, I started that journey knowing that he was real. Then another little bit, I remember somebody would ask me and I'd say, I'm getting to know him. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting to love him. And then it's, I love him. And now it's that he loves me. And you know, there's a part in the Bible, I'm not great now because I told you, my 1 John 4:18, perfect love casts out all fear. He who fears has not been made perfect. He loves us. We love him because he first loved us. And I said, I think that really says it all.
I know you've been able to help other families who've been through similar situations to yourselves. What is it you and Anthony do?
I tell you, it's not us, to be honest, because on our strengths, we have none. To be honest, I could do nothing. I'm often asked that question in Marks and Spencer's where I work. Girls would say, God, Collette, you're so strong. I'm not one bit strong. I'm a mother like everybody else that's out there, and it's God that gives us the strength. But the boardwalk, through the interviews at the start, Neil Prendeville, which has actually been very good to us, he gives us the boardwalk every month. It's for people that are even lost and lonely, because we have a few lost and lonely that came in too. And it's people that are affected by suicide, and they come in and we sit around and we talk, and you know, we know that, you know, it's okay to laugh. And you know, after a while I have them down in my home for dinner, and they're our friends, they're our family now, you know, and we tell them about what God has had to do in our life. You know, there's a part in the scriptures, I'm not great now like I said, but it's part, you know, it says that he comforts us so that we can comfort others with the comforts that we were after receiving from Christ. And you know, I'm sitting here now and I'm 51 years of age. imagine if somebody had told me 5 years ago that I'd be sitting in a radio station in Life FM telling people that I love Christ and I love God and I love the Holy Spirit. I don't fully understand the three in one, but I said, I think I'm growing and growing every day. But the love that I have for the prayers that He answers, the bonds that me and Anthony have, we as a couple that lost a child through suicide. We could have been so easy torn apart. It's very hard to sit together when you're both grieving. You grieve differently, so you have a habit of hurting each other apart, really. But God didn't. God had the biggest purpose for us. He had the purpose that He put His hand over us. We have a love and a friendship for each other. We have a respect for each other, and that respect and love now reaches out to other people. And God is after providing. We're after having dinners in our home where 2 days beforehand, and He would say, in the name of God, how are we going to provide for this dinner now? And His hand. We never collect money. There's never money. Our slogan is, you are not alone. And we're hope in Christ, because Christ is the hope of glory in us. And when people, I used to read that, I used to think, God, that's going right off my head, how are you to understand that? But the more prayer I found, I went to my knees, and I won't lie, I'd say I was like that woman that cried to that judge. I cried to him, and I said, if you're real, make it real to me. I don't want it to be just words on a page. I want it to be life. I want it to be my life. I want a purpose bigger than my pain. And He sends people, and I see people, the most compassionate, broken, loving people that you could come across, where the world don't have an interest in them anymore. But where it is about them that you see, they're open, because this hurt the world can't fix. Your next door neighbour can't fix. Your husband can't fix it. Your children can't fix it. Christ is the only person that can fix a broken heart. He's the only person that can get right in there. And and the days that are lonely are the days that her birthday, her anniversary would come up, and you'd be thinking, you never go down to that. I know where it is when it says in the Bible, we don't grieve like those who don't know Christ, because I know Christ now, and I know that one day I'm going to stand, and there is going to be a big parade. Jesus is going to lead that parade, and I'm going to be involved, a small, tiny little part of that. I'm going to be after taking part in that. And when I stand in front of him, he'll look at me, and I hope that I keep this walk up, everything that He puts in my heart. I never question when He puts something in my heart. I never says, oh, maybe that's not right now. I go with it. And conviction, these words you'll hear, conviction, that's really God. I remember when I heard a pastor talking one day, and he said, I smoked 50 cigarettes after Leanne, and I heard at the end of the preaching, he just mentioned cigarettes, and I was only just starting in a journey with God. I was starting to know Him now, only just getting to know Him. Didn't know all His miracles, didn't know all His comfort, His heal, all His different names. He has so many different names. I said, they're just wonderful. All of them are just, and that is even one of His names, wonderful. I remember the preacher mentioned cigarettes, and I remember thinking, there's no man telling me to give up cigarettes. God can tell me Himself. I tell you, within 24 hours, God laid that on my heart, and within 24 hours, I was off them cigarettes. No patches, no nothing, just straight up. And it's like as if I never smoked, never touched a cigarette in my life. I went 8 months after Leanne died. Me and Anthony started with one bottle of wine. We didn't drink for 8 months, because I said God was really minding us. He really must have having a hand in us, because with Irish funerals, it's all drink, and I can testify to that, because I had enough of them. I don't know where it came from, but God dropped it into my heart. I didn't know it was God. I didn't know. I thought it was common sense. And I said, turn to Anthony. I says, no matter who puts a drink into your hand, don't touch it. And I says, that was God's hand even then. And I didn't do nothing to earn it. I didn't ask Him. I didn't call in Him. I didn't, but He was even minding me on that plane. He was guarding me that I have a purpose for you, Collette and Anthony. Your purpose is that you're going to show anyone that will want to listen, anyone that will want to hear, anyone that will want to see, because I have my life as an open book. My home is an open book. What you see is what you get. I'm not the polished stone. I'm far from it. My God, He's a lot of work to do with me, and but I'm a willing person. My hand is up, I'm asking Him, make me that better person, make me that person, send me. There's a song, and I don't even know the name for it, but as Christ is speaking, like, who will He send? Like, and I always say, send me, I don't care, I doing His work is the most joyful thing. You couldn't even call it work. Imagine sitting down with someone, telling them about the love of Christ, the healing, to be able to stand and tell them the love that I had for my child. My child isn't here with me today. My child won't be here with me tomorrow. It's not that this is a fad or something in your head. If somebody's listening out there today, and you're sitting there and your body's aching for your child that you lost, and you're inside that loneliness, then no matter if you threw an elephant down there, it wouldn't fill it, and your whole inside, because it's not your head that loneliness attacks. It's your stomach. God's name is greater than all. He's greater than suicide. His name is greater than suicide. On this journey, he didn't say to me, Collette, I'm giving you Leanne back if you follow me. He asked me to trust him, and I trusted him. And you know, he's after taking me from strength to strength to strength. He's after showing me how I can love. You know, before I was saved, or I got to know Christ, before I even, you know, when I started saved and Christ, I used to even feel uncomfortable with them words. People now would often meet me and they say to me, you know, they keep us in their prayers, and I says, do please, don't give me €1,000. Tell me that you're genuinely going to God, you're going to Christ, and you're praying for me, because I know Christ is listening, and he loves a true heart coming to him, praying to him, an open heaven, because you will get an open heaven. But you know, I remember before that I got to know Christ, before Leanne, you know, I was one of these people, you know, very materialistic. I thought, you know, it was grand to have the new car, grand to have all the other things, you know, but I never lived anybody see it through me. Nobody ever knew about the abuse until after Leanne. I didn't care then, because it wasn't the worst thing to happen to me. The rape wasn't the worst thing to happen to me. It would have been Leanne. I suppose God was bringing me on a journey, and I remember thinking, Claire, how many times did you see a person that were in trouble and they tell you, and you'd say, oh God, how are you coping? And you know, I'd be thinking of you and what have you, and that person would leave you, and you'd never give that person a thought, you know. I think now that when somebody talks to me and tells me something, I nearly follows them out the door to get their number, you know, and follow up. You're a different person when Christ comes into your life. That person, slowly but surely, you die really, in a sense, because this is my version of it now, because this is what I feel. You die, and God starts filling you up more. Christ starts filling you up more. So he fills you up more with all the good things. I'm getting rid of the bad things. No, they'll be, you're a long way. We get to heaven, and we still won't be perfect. We'll be only perfect when we, you know, when Christ said we're perfect. He's emptying me out. And I tell you the truth, I'm sitting here, and that if anybody's listening there and they're broken hearted, and it's not even about suicide, and you feel that you can't cope, I tell you the truth, I have so much joy in my life. I've hope, I've joy. Oh my God, I can't even put it into words. It's not a joy. My husband explained it to me one day when I was trying to. He says to me, he says, Collette, you know, he says, you can see happiness and sadness. But he said, do you ever notice, he says, God's joy, there's no opposite. It's just joy. And I thought, isn't that wonderful? There's no opposite to it. Do you know, there's no opposite. He didn't give no opposite to joy. He just gave us joy. And it's free. Do you know, you don't have to go and put mass cards, like, you know, get mass cards and pray it in or what have you. Stand in your room. Stand wherever you are today, you know, and just say, Lord, if that lady is right that's on that radio, and if her journey, what she's telling me, where she's after coming from, it's true, I'm asking you, give me a chance. Because, you know, God loves a humble heart, and he knows when, you know, I suppose me and Anthony, we came to a place where we had nothing. We were completely broken, to be honest. I couldn't drink a glass of water. Somebody used to have to hold the water up to my mouth. Anthony was the same. This was a man that ran his own business, and he couldn't hold a glass of water. We couldn't put food into our mouth. The weight loss fell, you know, you're no sleep. And God took all that, and each step that we take now, he's just, I always feel I'm in his shadow, so that protection is there. I'm in his shadow, so anything coming towards me, I'm in Christ's shadow, so Christ's shadow is there, you know. And so what I can say here is that people will know the boardwalk. You know, it's on first Tuesday of every month. You're more than welcome. People sit and chat together, and we're in the situation, unfortunately. I always says with the coffee morning that nobody really wants to join, unfortunately. But I says, unfortunately, suicide is growing, and we're in a place now at the moment that, you know, that people are lonely, they're worried about their homes. And listen, my phone number is also very public, so if you ever want to talk, I'm willing to listen. I said, God gave me a heart and time to listen now, so I would also like to thank Life FM for giving this opportunity for me to be able to sit here and chat, and thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Collette. And if anybody out there listening does want to contact Collette, they can get in contact with us here in the station, and we'll pass you forward. Our number is 496 4444. That's 021 496 4444. Or you can get in touch with us through our website on www.lifefm.ie. That's lifefm.ie. But thanks so much again, Collette. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.